I'm David Brill. I'm a doc, I'm a Democrat, I'm a pragmatist, and I'm running for Congressional District 4. Can anybody figure out which way it goes? I need a little help here. No, there it is, there it is. As you can see, this is a big district. You can't drive around it easily. There are 7 counties in this district. And they're very, very red. So we've got some work ahead of us if we want to work together on this. Now, until a couple of months ago, I was in charge of primary care for all of northern Arizona at our wonderful local VA. This is one of the most popular VAs. It's got a very high satisfaction rate, and I can tell you more of it another time. But as I've been going through my career, I've also been the medical director of Michelin Tires, a Fortune 500 company. I've started 3 small businesses. And in that, I've seen what healthcare does when you can't pay your employees and you have to let them go, and then one of them has a wife who gets cancer just when he has no insurance. This is the kind of system we have. It's an amalgamation of different systems, but I'm also a teacher. Before I became a doc, I was a history teacher. So I'm going to bring those themes to you tonight. And the first one I'm going to take on, I want to let you know some specifics about, upon arriving in Congress, I plan to do some things that a doc can do really well. In my time at the VA, the last few years, we have struggled with our budgets because Big Pharma has been gouging the market, taking advantage of their regulatory privileges. The big one for us was hepatitis C. And every year, the cost of treating the veterans, we're talking $20,000, $30,000 a month sometimes, but the cost of treating the veterans would go up by millions of dollars, and we just said, what are we going to cut? What are we going to take away? Because this money has to go to the pharmaceutical companies. Now, when I get to Congress, the first thing I'm going to do, I don't know how many of you are aware that Medicare cannot negotiate on price with big pharmaceuticals. That was the way that the Republicans passed it in 2003 with Medicare Part D. The insurance companies negotiated. Now, do they have the clout of Medicare? No. We need to take the handcuffs off Medicare and let Medicare negotiate on price with the pharmaceuticals. That's number 1. Number 2, Canada. The same pharmaceutical companies that we have produce the same safe and effective medications in Canada at half the price for their Medicare. We need to bring them back from Canada until the pharmaceutical companies learn to price them at a reasonable price in our country. So that would be number 2. Number 3, there are a lot of people in our country that need this. This is albuterol. A few years ago, the manufacturer of albuterol put a new propellant in. Wow. It wasn't rocket science. But that made a new patent, which for 20 years allowed them to jack up the price from $12 to over $100. People need this to survive. They're killing people. I'm a doc. I care when people get killed by pharmaceutical companies. This is what they're doing. This has to stop. You heard the thing about EpiPen. I have a friend here in town. His wife just started on a medication this month where one pill costs $6,000. And his insurance only covers half of it. Okay, we've got to stop the abuse of these patent privileges. Now, 4th, I'm happy to talk about lots of other issues like environment, women's rights, and so on. But let me go on to number 4 because this is important to us. The opioid epidemic. We all remember, or many of us remember, back in the 90s, the tobacco companies, the CEOs, there's a picture of them standing up and saying, nicotine is not addictive. Well, in the early 2000s, the opioid companies did the same thing. They said that opioids are not addictive when used for non-cancer pain, and so you should be treating for the fifth vital sign. This epidemic was in part unleashed for profit by the pharmaceutical companies. They've made billions off it. And now, 41 states, 41 attorneys general are taking them on, just like they took on the tobacco companies. And they're going after the money, saying our state Medicare, Medicaid programs, we want our money back because you fraudulently marketed these. It comes to mind, who is looking out for the federal government? Medicare, Medicaid, the VA? All of those federal funds should also be clawed back and put into programs like CHIP and bringing affordable, accessible health care to every American, which we can do by taking out a lot of the waste. And there's a lot more that I haven't mentioned tonight. Fiscal conservatism isn't a partisan issue. We all care about how our tax dollars are spent, period. And it's the Dems that balance the budgets, if you haven't noticed, for the past 40 years, not the Republicans. Now, we've seen what the opioids do to our families and our communities and our veterans. But it's not just about treating chronic pain, it's about despair, because people don't have jobs. When Trump was elected, a lot of his electorate are opioid users because they don't have hope. Now, what does it take to bring hope? It takes good jobs. It takes, coincidentally, we've got a lot of infrastructure that really needs improving. And the next thing is we've been giving the biggest wealth transfer in history to the billionaires since Ronald Reagan. Biggest in history. 80% of the new wealth created has gone to the top 10%. Not to the ones who need good jobs. We need to create good jobs. So I will work to create good jobs in northern Arizona in infrastructure, transportation, water, internet, and especially solar energy. This place should be covered with solar. Now, jobs need education. When employers come in, if we put in new transportation, employers need an educated and trained workforce. This is one of only 12 districts in the entire country, 12 out of 435, where women make more than men. That's because there are great jobs for women and they're higher paying jobs than for the men. No, maybe not. No, 40% of our male workforce above the age of 50 is out of the workforce. They are not in the workforce, and they're not unemployed, they're just gone. We need to help them with retraining and education. And we need to take that by having the wealthy, the billionaires, pay their fair share and balance the budget in the process. Yes. Now, the millennials. This is the first generation that will have less opportunity in history than their parents. They don't have a living wage. The minimum wage we have now is a fraction of what it was when we were kids. All of us in the room, when we went through college, and I'm running because I'm grateful for the education I got. When we went through college, it took us 2 years to pay for a 4-year education. Now it takes 20. I should have put that out as a quiz, shouldn't I? Yeah. Well, anyway, I've worked in my life. I just want to let you know, I work across the aisle. I've had a few businesses, but I want to tell you, my dad was a Methodist minister, and he was basically, and I watched him all through growing up, went through it over and over again. He was the minister who was sent whenever a church had two factions that were at war at each other, usually over a new building or project that they didn't agree on how to do. He was the one that was sent to work it out. So I watched it and I suffered with the with the warring factions, which affected us too. Well, anyway, when I went out and started my first business, I started it in hazardous chemicals data management. And it was a lot like my poor dad, going into a war zone where the employer, the union, the regulatory agencies, the Department of Health, everybody's arguing about jurisdiction, who's doing everything wrong. And I went in the middle of all of it to put forth a product that everybody could, if not agree with, at least respect for the quality of the work. And what I discovered is that I love it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy talking to people, who don't agree with me and who, passionately don't agree with me. I'm good with that. Let's get together, let's listen to each other, and let's see if we can come up with something reasonable. We've got to get past the bullying in Congress where one party bullies, for its elected period of elected majority, and then the next party comes in and dismantles everything they did and bullies back. We've got to get past the bullying. I am a pragmatist. I'm Dr. Brill, I'm running for Congress, and I just have to ask you now for what I need. I need talented help. A bunch of you here in the room have talent and you can help. Please get hold of me. Go to the website, brillforcongress.com. It'll be up tomorrow. There you can volunteer, you can also contribute, and there is a one-to-one match on your contributions up to $16,000. We've got to get out. I've got 7 counties to visit. I've got chambers of commerce and all of them to work with. I've got Democratic leaders to work with. A lot of travel coming up, publicity. We've got work to do. So any of you who can and want to work out and help out, please do so. So thank you and good night.